Hello, welcome back to The Inner. Today I'm joined by Kajara NebtHet of the RaSekhiArtsTemple. Hello, how are you?
I am very thankful. How are you today?
I'm doing great, or should I have said Anke Ma'at?
Yes, or het tepu, I don't use hello too often.
Okay. So, yeah, it's great to have you on. If you could kind of introduce yourself to the audience.
Yes, absolutely. I am Kajara NebtHet. I'm the founder of the Raseki Arts Temple. I am an author, an educator, a healer, a priestess, a light worker, and community activist. I'm a mother and a grandmother, a nature lover, and an earth keeper. And I am a tree hugger. And so, yes, it is my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Awesome. It's amazing to have you on. Um, so if you could, for us, kind of narrate your story. How did you really get into, how did your spiritual journey kind of start and how did it progress?
I have been on a spiritual path as far back as I can remember. I was an only child for much of my life. And so I remember having invisible friends. And, I knew from an early age that I had spirit guides, ancestors, that I wasn't alone, even though I felt alone. And I did a lot of reading as a young person. And I just remember, being divinely guided. I going to places, back in the days, we could hitchhike. And so, like, for example, I had a hitchhiking experience and I had done it a few times, me and my friend on the way to the party or whatever. And then I remember hearing a voice, you need to get out the car right now. And so I did, and I'm pretty sure it saved me and my friend from some calamity. But I'm just saying that to say I knew that I had these guardians who were with me, and I learned to listen to them at an early age, thankfully. And they have been guiding me ever since. So it's been a lifelong journey for me.
Okay. And the way I found you, and I believe what you're mostly known for, is comedic Reiki. Uh, how did
Yes.
you really develop into that? How'd that start for you?
So when I was a teenager, I got very sick, and I again heard voices telling me to put my hands where I was hurting and pray. And so I did. And in doing that, the pain went away and it never. So I knew, that it was something special going on, but I really wasn't sure about it until many years later when I read a brochure about Reiki. And the description just reminded me of my experience. And I realized that I had already done Reiki. And so it was a brochure who was from a brother who was a student of Baba Heru. And I contacted him immediately and spoke to him. He came to teach a class for myself and a few others. And in that time, he was told to give me the attunement for level 1, 2, and 3 in the same weekend. And so that during that time, I was already going through a spiritual quickening. I was going through the Sacred Women gateways with Queen Afua's, some of her priestesses. I had gone through an initiation with an Akan group. And so I was really just, just being spiritually charged to learn more, do more, shift and change myself. And through that, I began to practice Reiki as I was taught. And in my practice, I realized that I had this calling, I would say, to not just practice, but to also teach. And so I was charged by my spirit guides to begin teaching Reiki to our people specifically. and to teach them about energy and how to work with energy, and also to restore Reiki to its more original state. Had some lessons in the Kemetic sciences. I was able to put the pieces together. And, they say everything really has its roots in ancient Kemet because of the scripts and the sacred texts that were left on the pyramid walls in the tombs and such. And so, it wasn't long before I was just being told or guided to put this sacred science together. And I was told to teach, go to cities where there were high numbers of melanated people and just begin to follow those directions. I really had no idea where it was going to take me, to be honest with you. It did, I didn't really envision being a leader of a temple or even having a temple. I just was following the guidance and it grew into what it is today. I didn't ever think I would write any books, but I'm very thankful to have been chosen to do this work.
Okay, that's awesome. So, a question I've often heard, and I'd like for you to answer it, is what is the difference between Kemetic Reiki and the Asian counterpart? How are they different?
Okay, that's a great question. They are very different. I like to tell people it's like the difference between the Catholic Church and the Holy Rollers Church. So we put the soul into the Reiki, okay? So in our practice, it's an African centered practice, and we do not have any quiet sessions. So the regular forms of Reiki kind of stand there and hold their hands. But for us, we are doing our work. We're praying, chanting, playing instruments. It's never quiet. And it's just very more, much more, I should say, uh, detailed. And, we stand healing because I'm also a student of Dr. Africa, peace and blessings be to him. So he taught me about holistic healing, which means we don't just focus on the physical body, but also we deal with healing the mind and the emotions and the spiritual bodies as well. And so in our practice, we do work with the laws of Ma'at, and we do teach Ma'at to our students and practitioners because in our healing process, we have to reprogram our minds and the way we think, the way we live, and return to living with more integrity and good character. So that is a big part of it. Our eating habits are different, because it's important for us to be clear channels so that the energy can move through us the way that it's meant to. And if we are full of toxins, that creates blockages for our energy flow. We also deal with our spirit guides and understand that, we're working with the spiritual realm. We're not just doing this work on our own, using our energy, but we tap into the spiritual realm, working with spirit guides, working with the Netaru, working with other deities and ancestors to assist us in the healing process. And then our practice also includes sound therapy, crystal therapy, aromatherapy, color therapy. All things natural have frequency, right? So in doing energy healing work, we use other things, tools that have frequencies that can assist us with our healing process.
Okay. I like that. So, in that, you mentioned a few things that I kind of want to go back to and kind of get you to expound on a bit more.
Okay.
Um, so, you mentioned one of your mentors, Dr. Africa.
Yes.
He's someone I recently found out about. Uh, is he still living? Or
No,
is
he,
he
he made his transition a couple years ago.
okay? So, what are some of the things? I know you mentioned holistic healing, but what are some of the things that you were able to learn from him?
I learned a lot from Dr. Africa. I had his books for maybe 10 years before I actually became his student in the physical. And so, he really helped me to understand, like I said, the holistic healing aspect. A lot of talk about herbs and the way that we should be eating as melanated people. He talked a lot about that and just our lifestyle overall. Dr. Africa was a brilliant teacher, and he even helped me to remember to add a little humor to my classes. So to this day, because he had a great sense of humor, but he would use it in his teaching. So I've definitely also used that as a way, because it's hard to just sit and learn things without having a light side to it. We have that serious part, but also we like to keep it light, and to keep people interactive and such. Dr. Africa was just very helpful in my overall practice and understanding of the healing of our people. So I could go on and on.
Yeah. From what I understand, the humor in the delivery of like high level teachings is what drew people to Bobby Hemmett.
Hmm. Yes, yes, that is.
uh, Yeah, so you mentioned Ma'at, learning how to live by Ma'at. So when it comes to the oracles of Ma'at, do you see them as laws? Do you see them as guidelines? Do you see them as byproducts? How does Ma'at really fit into your life and the structure of how you teach, the structure of your temple?
So we actually start our lessons with the laws of Ma'at, because Ma'at helps us to understand how we are supposed to behave, how we should treat each other, how we should treat ourselves, how we treat the spiritual realm. And so I do encourage my students, and have for many years also said those laws of Ma'at every day, because they help us to keep our vibration high, as well as to help us to be accountable for our actions. And so this is one, even with speaking with Baba Heru, um, he would always stress the importance of living with Ma'at and making sure that we use those laws, because when you say them every day, they become a part of you, right? So if you do happen to break the laws, because none of us are perfect, some of us, are a little better than others in keeping them, but we all have challenges and such. And so whenever we do cross the line, then at least we know that we have to do something to make amends for that, because of reciprocity. The attributes of Ma'at help us as well. And understanding karma, so everything that you do comes back to you, everything you put out comes back to you. So those laws help us to, keep ourselves in alignment. And I feel like they are extremely important for us to remember them, because the 10 commandments are nice and everything, but it's only 10. And so it's a lot left out when you're just following 10 rules. The laws of Ma'at is 42 laws. So it includes much more for us. I will not pollute myself. I will not mistreat children. I will not mistreat animals. I will not desecrate holy places. Like it's so many other things for us to consider as human beings having this experience, and how we're supposed to behave. And so, yes, it's Ma'at is our guiding force, and for us as healers, for the ones that I'm helping to heal themselves, as well as those who want to help heal others, that is the foundation for our life, not just our practice, but to embrace and live by those laws. That means everything.
Awesome. So you talked about engaging the Netaru. Um, what does that look like on a practical level for you in your regular day to day engagement? What does engaging the Netaru look like for you?
So, the Netru are aspects of the Most High. And these aspects are forces, some of which are well, they're all outside of us, but some of them are also inside of us. So, for example, my aunt is really a theory, like it's a, it's a philosophy, it's a way of thinking, right? And we understand that she is also a Netru, but also we embrace and our ancestors, the ancient Kemetic ancestors, they would pray and give praises to the Netru, but also they would say, I am the Netru, Anuk, Ma'at, Anuk Aset. So, understanding that we too have that God and Goddess power, that power of the Netru within us, especially if we're conscious of it and we embrace it and seek to embody it even. So on a day-to-day basis, that's my goal, is to be the embodiment of the Neteru. I work with Sekhmet most, but I'm also a daughter of Tahuti, which has given me the ability to bring forth the books that I wrote. Um, Tapping into that aspect of intelligence and wisdom, and not just wisdom from today, but ancient wisdom, to bring it back, to share it. So, I work with the Netru in a lot of ways, but definitely honoring them. I have altars for them. I make offerings to them, and then also do my best to, allow them to live and work through me, which is what they really want to do.
Okay. So talk a bit more about Sekhmet.
So Sekhmet is the goddess who is known as the Great Mother and also the destroyer of evil. And Sekhmet is a lioness. She is always seen with a solar disc on her head. And so she has that fire energy. She's a fire goddess. And Sekhmet works with us through our immune system. She works with us through our life force. So the word Sekhem is a word that we use to refer to our power, or power in general, but also our own personal power. So she works with us, through that vibration of power and life force energy, what people call chi and ki, right? And all things natural have that Sekhem, that life force energy. So with that, Sekhmet is everywhere. She's in the trees and in the sun power, in the water. It all has life force energy. And so working with Sekhmet has been a beautiful part of my life. I first began having dreams about lions when I was a little girl, and I didn't know anything about Sekhmet in those days. So later, when I learned about her, I realized, I've had this connection um, as far back as I could remember, and still dream about the lions and such to this day. But I do encourage people to learn more about her, because her realm is very expansive. And especially when it comes to those of us who are on that healing journey, working with Sekhmet is extremely helpful, because she is the great mother healers and she can guide us to heal ourselves, which is what, our ancestors did way before Western medicine. We were our own doctors. We had our own medicine women, and they worked with Netru, like Sekhmet and others, to assist in that healing process, to have guidance, to know what we needed to do to bring balance, because that's basically what healing is about, is bringing one into balance from an imbalance, whether it's a mental, physical, spiritual, or emotional imbalance.
Okay. I recently recorded a video. It's not out yet. It might be coming out tomorrow. I recorded a bunch at one time, but
Okay.
where I ended up talking about Sekhmet in that session, I talked about a lot of the feminine attributes.
Mm.
And in that, I mentioned that one of what I believe one of the manifestations of Sekhmet is the fever that people get when they have an illness. It's
Hmm.
that fiery hot that burns away the disease. It gets rid of the ailments and things of that nature.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
What would you say are some more of the manifestations of Sekhmet?
So Segmet works through us through women, particularly in the menstrual cycle. So she's a goddess of menstruation. Also, she works through our ability to have courage and to tap into our power. But definitely, working through our immune system to fight. The immune system is what we have to help us fight to stay alive and to be healthy. So she works with us through the immune system in every aspect of it. Um, Segment also works with us through our minds. She comes to speak to us, to guide us to, because she is the enforcer for Ma'at. So Ma'at sets the laws. Segment is the one who reminds us to follow the laws. So I would say she comes and works through our conscious mind to remind us when we get out of balance, um, and gives us warnings, even red flags, some people call them, when things are not in balance as well.
Okay. So, one of the things that you mentioned that you do is aromatherapy. Now, usually I get people to talk about the sound, I get them to talk about the crystals and the metals. I rarely get people to talk about the fragrances. So, could you talk a bit about how the fragrances help people?
Oh, absolutely. So, in ancient times, we burned incense, and the incense is burned to shift the energy in the homes or spaces. It helps to bring or shift the frequency specifically, usually to make it a higher frequency. Okay. So, and we can feel that, when you burn, for example, frankincense, not just the little sticks, but the resins, which is the most natural state of it, it can make you feel better. If you're feeling sad, if you're feeling, unbalanced, it brings that energy of peace and a high vibration wherever the fragrance is. And so, also with oils, just, thinking about flowers, right? In ancient times, before it was all these buildings everywhere, there were flowers growing everywhere. There were fruit trees and, so many different other things around that would sweeten the air. And now we don't have that as much. So using oils or incense or even flowers helps to, because it affects our brains when we have smells. Just in the same way, if you are behind a garbage truck and the smell of the garbage just kind of turns your stomach, usually, right? And so good smells do the opposite. When you smell them, it goes straight to your brain and creates a shift. Like flowers for me, I love roses, lavender, and the smell of them just automatically make me smile, make me feel good. Um, and for anyone else, I'm sure that's why people, when people are in the hospital, one of the things that happens is that others bring flowers to the hospital for them. So it's the beautiful colors of the flowers, but also the fragrance that comes from the flowers that creates the space to be a more healing environment for those that need that.
Okay. So when I'm exploring and I'm looking at a lot of the different artwork in the Kemetic tradition, I see the blue lotus a lot. Could you talk a bit about the significance of that particular flower?
Yes, yes. The blue lotus is definitely a sacred flower that has a lot of significance because it literally grows out of mud or muddy waters, even. And so, it's one of the most beautiful flowers that you've ever seen. And so, just that aspect, that beauty can come from something which we consider to be not so beautiful, like mud. That makes it stand out. And I'm sure it's why the ancestors paid a little bit more attention to it. But the fragrance of the lotus is also extremely spiritual, and it has a very high vibration as well. So, smelling the lotus flowers or even drinking the tea can help to shift our consciousness, which is something that's needed in this day and time because we're living in a time where, they're not just poisoning the food, the water, and the air, but even, the things that we're listening to on the radio, things that we may see on social media or TV. It shifts our consciousness. So, working with the lotus flowers can help to bring us to that state of a more spiritual consciousness, which we all need that. It raises our vibration, that beautiful fragrance. Yes. Even drinking the tea, like I said, can be helpful. You don't even have to smell it, just drink it. And it works very much the same.
Awesome. So going back to just talking about Reiki a bit more, could you share some of the stories of people that you've been able to help, or some of the conditions that you were able to help people out of?
Oh, absolutely. So we do help people who have a lot of mental instabilities. I've had quite a few clients and students who suffered from anxiety, depression, even I had a few young children who had some even deeper levels of mental instabilities that we had been able to help expand. So I had a young child who could barely speak, and we worked with him for a few months, and he began to, speak and embrace communication through that energy healing work. We've also, things like pain in the body, we can clear easily. Um, a lot of our people suffer from childhood traumas of different types. And so we do definitely help those ones to work through their inner child work, shift their energy, release some of the memories and the emotions that they've held for years and years and years behind it, which really that's some of my favorite parts of doing this work is to see people have those types of breakthroughs after suffering, for many years, to find a way to, release the pain and the sadness and the things that, have been blocking them for many years. And then also I've had probably my favorite story of all, the young sister who came to me and she had cancer. And I believe it was in more than one place. She had a few tumors in her body, and she didn't have a lot of money, to pay for the classes and such. But the way that she presented it to me, I was just like, I would be more than happy to assist you to see, how we could help you. So we not just helped her with the healing sessions, but also helping her to change the way she was eating, helping her to, release some of the pain she was dealing with from the past, and we also were able to help dissipate some of the tumors that were in her body so that after working with us for a period of time, she went back to the doctor and those tumors had disappeared. And he was just amazed and, did not understand how it could happen. But I remember when we finally did get to work on her physically and just really putting that energy in to burst those tumors. And, we actually were able to do that. And her calling me afterwards, after she went back to the doctor with the results. And then even calling back a few years later and saying, I'm still cancer free, I'm doing great. And, that again is the greatest reward of doing this type of work, to really see people have those breakthroughs, to see the healing happening. um, that's why we do what we do. So I've had a range of things. I've been doing this work over 15 years, so it's been um, a range and a variety of different things that I've been able to assist with through the years.
Okay. So, if you could kind of give us a look behind the scenes when you're doing energy work, when you're practicing Reiki or light work, what does it feel like to you? What are you experiencing on your end? Are you seeing things? Are you getting visions? You hearing things in the spirit? You feeling tingling all over? You getting hot? Like, what's happening on your end?
Everything you just mentioned. I definitely get hot. The energy moving through me bring that sensation of heat and fiery energy. So I tingle sometimes. Definitely hear things. I hear things about the clients that are on the table. I sometimes do see, I have what I like to call X-ray eyes. So I like to, see beyond the physical and just kind of look into people's bodies. And so there's been times that I've seen like rocks and stuff inside of people. It was one student and client that I had who had what looked to me like a bunch of snakes inside of her. And so, like, we cleared some stuff off of her aura and worked on her for a few minutes, a good 20, 25 minutes. And after doing all of that, it's like we cleared the way for these snake like entities to appear. They weren't there physically, but I wasn't the only one to see them. And so, things like that do happen. Definitely, I've had to do a couple of exorcism type things, clearing entities and such. So it could get very deep.
So, looking at it on, let's just say, I call it anatomy, but like their metaphysical anatomy, um, what most know as chakras, I believe the Kemetic term is Sekam Shin Ra. Could you talk about that a bit and how that kind of goes with what you do?
Yes. And so we actually call them the Aritus or the Karakasas. There's many names that go all the way back to ancient Kemet. And so these are the energy centers that are within our bodies, and they are associated with planets, Neteru, fragrances, sounds, colors, everything. So it's these energy centers inside of us that connect us with the universe. They're associated with organs and glands as well. And so when we do our healing work, we focus on energy centers because it is those centers that we're able to make the shifts within someone without working on each organ one at a time. We just go to the energy center that is connected to the organs. And so we can read these centers to see if they're balanced, if they're unbalanced, if they're overstimulated or understimulated. And then that helps us to understand what is needed to bring them back into balance as well.
Okay. So, how does that also work along with auras? Do you see the aura as like the proof of what of which center they're functioning from, or do you see it as a separate system altogether? How does that kind of work into it?
It's nothing separate. All of the energy is connected within us. And the aura is a protective force field that is outside of us, but it is representing the internal energy. So it's like the inside of us comes outside of us to create this field, and everything works together. So if your energy is off balanced internally, then your auric field is going to be weak and may have holes or tears or that type of thing. And as well as the opposite, if you have a strong vibration, you have strong energy inside of you, your feelings are balanced, your mind is balanced, your spiritual self is also strong, it will create a stronger force field, a stronger auric field around you. Even living with my aunt, if you live with integrity, if you have good character, that helps to keep your aura strong. So everything is related, and that is the part that we really need to understand as a people, because some people do see it as separate, but no, it's not. It's
Yeah.
mhm.
So when it comes to that, building up a strong or building or recognizing that you have a weak one, what are some of the manifestations you could see in someone or someone might be able to recognize in themselves that says, my energy might just be off. I might need to come up higher. There might be some tears, as you said, some openings in my shield. What are some manifestations that could kind of act as red flags for people?
So if your energy is off, it's a lot that can go to that. But I would say if you feel like your head is cloudy or you can't think clearly, that is definitely a sign that your upper aretus may be off balance. Some people have emotional blocks, and so they have a hard time loving themselves and loving others. So that's a sign that your energy can be off. And even some people have a hard time with taking care of themselves and their basic needs, right? That's also a sign, that your energy is unbalanced. Some people have issues with their sexuality and dealing with that. That's definitely a sign your energy is off. Some people have a lack of discipline and self control, which, definitely is another sign that you're, what I call the Ob center, or what we call it. Most people call it the solar plexus. But if you lack vitality, if you lack discipline, you don't know your purpose. Um, those are signs that you're unbalanced in that area. Some people have blockages in their throat, so they may either talk too much or they hold stuff in and don't talk enough. So, like I said, it's seven aritus, and they all could be balanced or unbalanced. And the signs show up in different ways based off of which ones are unbalanced.
Okay, I like that. So this might be a silly question because I've heard many different outlooks on this. So I'm just curious, your angle. How
Mhm.
many energy centers do you believe that a person has? I've heard some say 5, some say 7, some say 9, even all the way up to like 144. So where are you at as far as how many of these centers do you believe people have?
Well, from my experience, I feel like we have seven major ones. Okay. The seven major ones: the root, the sacral, the solar, the heart, the throat, first eye. I call it the first eye, and then the crown. But we also have the minor ones. And those minor centers, excuse me, I really don't know how many of them there are, but there are many.
Okay.
So I recognize like 22 minor ones.
Okay. So, kind of changing the topic a little bit. Um, when we're talking about, so I found some of your music on YouTube. It was recommended me. I want to say Bobby Haru told me about some of your work. Um, if you could talk a bit about music and Hesse and how that helps in spiritual practice.
Ooh, yes. So the HESI are very helpful for us to raise our vibration, to shift energy. Um, Most people are familiar with the Buddhists and how they chant, but we don't realize that that started in ancient Kemet too. And so we used to chant to um, to connect with the spiritual realm and to shift our energy. Um, Even the Muslim prayers can be considered like Hesi. The Rasta people, they would chant, for hours and hours and hours. So this is a practice that our people use to keep us balanced, to shift energy, to heal, to manifest. So many things you can do with chanting. So yes, it's important for us. And of course, know how it feels when we hear the drums, when we hear a good beat. I hear a lot of people saying, well, I might not like the lyrics of the song, but it's that beat, because that the frequency of the music affects us as people, and it can affect us in good or not good ways based on the frequency. When it's
Okay.
hissy that we're chanting, we could choose the frequency, so that helps a lot.
Okay. So, this is going back into just your structure, Raseki Arts Temple. Talk about that a bit. What are some of the things that y'all do there? How did you really start the Raseki Arts Temple?
Ooh. So the Raseki Arts Temple is a spiritual organization. I like to call it a family network of healers. And we do have, excuse me, healers all over the country and even in different countries as well. And we do work together in many ways. We have different events that we do together. We have students as well as teachers in different places. So we have, I'm not the only one that's teaching Raseki anymore, thankfully. We also have priestesses in the temple, and the priestesses have the gift and ability and authority to do ceremonies such as marriage ceremonies, baby naming ceremonies, rites of passage, different things like that. So we are healers within the community. We help others learn to heal as well as help others to learn how to heal others. And I've attuned over 2,000. I don't keep a number really, but I know it's over 2,000 people in the last 15 years. And so we have a large network. In fact, many of the people who do other forms of healing started with Raseki. I have a lot of students who created their own different businesses, not necessarily other temples, but other healing modalities that they teach and share as well. So I would say it's a good number of the healers that you see on social media. They came through a Raseki class at some point.
Okay. And is
Yes.
that usually women or is it women and men? What's the demographic like?
We are very open to women and men, but unfortunately, men just don't come as often as women. So I would say 1 out of 10 students is male. Yeah. And we would love to see the brothers come more, but for some reason, they are really slow to embrace the healing process. Um, but those sisters are there, and ready and open. And so that's a beautiful thing, because a lot of the other part is that because sisters have been primarily the students of the Raseki Arts Temple, it's a women run temple. And so that is something that's very different. Most spiritual centers in this country and other countries are run by men, which is nothing wrong with that, but
Mhm.
it's good to have balance, because in ancient Kemet, there's always that duality. You would never hear talk about the man without the woman, or the masculine and feminine would always, work together and be presented together as well. So I think is one thing that makes us stand out in a beautiful way, is that we are a temple that is run by women and are open to embrace the women who want to come to learn not just how to heal, but how to, raise their vibrations and be leaders in their communities.
Okay. So what do you think is the reason why like men aren't usually drawn to it? Do you think it's like the fear of vulnerability or the fear of diet, like having to change the diet? What do you think is like the main drawback?
I don't really know. I would say it probably is a fear. I know, I've heard some men say that they don't feel like they can learn from women type thing. The patriarchal mindset, I think, may have something to do with it. But also, it's just, an unfortunate thing that men seem to think they don't need healing. So, for example, if two people are in a relationship, man and woman, and they break up, the man will usually go right to another woman. He might not stop, take time to realize what mistakes were made or what he could have done better. He just will start with a whole new woman, like a day later. But women, on the other hand, will usually take a little bit of time to consider, what happened. They'll stop to deal with their heartbreak and something to, better themselves so they won't make the same mistakes. So I think, unfortunately, I think the ego does a big part in it. Men just don't see that they need to heal oftentimes. So they don't come.
Okay.
But we need them to, I'm telling you, because the brothers need some healing. We have these conversations oftentimes, because when they do go from one woman to the next, they just carry that baggage and they carry a negative energy along with them, and just leaving a trail of women hurt. And oftentimes, not just women, because they're also making children, and they're leaving these children as well. And so, our community is suffering because of that, because they're not wise enough and strong enough to do the right thing by the women or the children that they're creating. They just perpetuate the same mistakes over and over and over.
Yeah. And that's what some people consider generational curses, really just generational bad decision making.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And it is generational because the older men who are around oftentimes will encourage that type of behavior as opposed to correcting it or even trying to, tell them to do better. It's seen as a badge of honor to have a trail of women and a trail of children, whether you take care of them or not. And that's a problem. That's a mental illness.
Right.
Mhm.
So, let's see. So, when it comes to your personal engagement, your personal spirituality, what are some things that you do as a part of, I guess I could say, like your regular daily ritual, your daily routine that help keep you in the right space?
I get up in the mornings about 4 o'clock in the morning to pour libations, say my prayers, do some meditation, and then I pray again. A few times through the day, so that really helps to keep me balanced. Also, I do eat properly. So I've been a vegan vegetarian for about 30 years. I do a lot of fasting and detoxing and such to make sure that I stay light and not get full of toxins. Um, those are the main things that I do on a daily, just making sure that I keep my vibration in a good place. I do like the incense, I do readings for myself and others. um, I read spiritual books. I do a lot of chanting. I do work with the sound therapy for myself to keep myself balanced and such as well.
Okay. So, what does meditation and prayer look like for you? Because I know if we're dealing with, let's say, the Christian church, most of us went through the Baptist system at one point.
Yes.
uh, Prayer looks a certain way in that system. So, how does prayer look in this system? Is it still the same words, just switch around a few nouns, or how does that work?
I would say it's not the same words. When I was younger, I did go to some Christian churches, but I also went to what you call it, Jehovah Witness place. I went to, the Islamic temples. And so I learned to that there was different ways to pray at an early age. And so for me, or right now, currently, I pour libations, which is an African tradition. So I'm pouring water while I speak my words. And we give honor to the Most High. We give honor to our ancestors, spirit guides. We give honor to air, fire, water, and earth, the elements, and other forces. Um, and so, yes, we also do the opening of the way, which is a series of movements and prayers, words at the same time, at giving adorations, giving gratitude. I do also do yoga. I don't know how I left that off, but I guess because it's such a, I've been doing yoga for about 30 years as well. So just movement of the body and breathing and such is a big part of that. Meditation is definitely just having that quiet time to tune into the spiritual realm and listen for guidance and such. But also, I do what I call active meditation. So you can meditate while walking, while um, creating something like jewelry or things like that as well. And in fact, that's where I first realized that I was meditating, because I used to make jewelry, um, and would allow myself to just kind of drift off into that spiritual realm during that process. So crocheting, sewing, things like that, painting or drawing, you can also meditate by doing those things. And for those of us who are melanated, I think it's easier for us to meditate while we're doing something else, because we have a lot of energy. So to just sit still, like for my students, when we say just sit still and be quiet, and they're like, oh, that's so hard because our minds are going constantly. Also meditate with symbols, the ancient Kemetic symbols, which is something that we do in our practice. And those symbols are like portals. So they, open us up to that spiritual realm pretty easily. And so they can be helpful.
Okay. So what would you say is the difference between Kemetic yoga and Hindu yoga?
Well, I really don't know much about the Hindu yoga. I know that Kemetic yoga uses the postures that come from those pyramids. And so, like the sun salutation is a series of movements that are recreating the movements of the sun. So you're giving honor to the sun, and also moving in a way like the sun moves. So it comes up, it goes down, that type of thing. Um, I really can't speak about the Hindu yoga like that.
Okay. Now, concerning the diet, like going vegetarian or vegan, I've heard some people raise concerns. I'm not one of those people,
Okay.
but just to see if you might have an answer for some of them, I've heard some people have like the fear or even the experience of like arthritis like symptoms when they switch to only vegetables or only fruits or something like that. Do you know anything as to why that might happen?
Absolutely. Because our bodies need vitamins and minerals, right? So if you are eating food, and unfortunately now the quality of the food that we are able to get is not that high. It's not nutrient rich. And so if you're not eating a well balanced meal, is going to create some problems. So a lot of people who stop eating meat, they just automatically become like starchitarians. They want to eat, a lot of potatoes, a lot of noodles, a lot of starches, and not enough vegetables, not enough fruits, and also not enough beans. So, thankfully I started, this process many years ago, before they had the fake meats and such. And so beans were a big part of our lifestyle. And I raised four children as vegetarians and vegans. So, but we ate beans 2 or 3 times a week, because beans have the minerals that our bodies need. And if you're not eating meat, you have to have the beans as a substitute. You can also eat like nuts and seeds and such, and they will give you those minerals as well. Seaweed, mushrooms. So it's like, people just don't understand, which is, again, another thing that I learned from studying not just Dr. Africa, but from Dr. Sebi. Just eating a variety of foods, different color vegetables, different types of fruits. You know, times in America, people eat apples and oranges, and it's like, you got cherries, you got mangoes, you got plums, peaches, you know, and those when they're in season. And you have to have that variety in order to get the vitamins and minerals that your body needs. Otherwise, you will start to see, you know, some breakdown of the body and the organs, because that's what they need, you know. And then Dr. Sebi always teaches us that we are electric, so we need electric foods, not just cooked vegetables. We got to have salads, you know, raw food that still has an electric quality to it. And most people just don't understand that. They just, you know, stop eating meat and then just go to the meat substitutes, which are very heavily chemicalized and not healthy at all. Make your own bean patties. You know, if you got to have a burger, you got to make it yourself if you want to be healthy. So, unfortunately, and definitely arthritis is a disease that comes from a lack of minerals. They, you know, if you don't have that calcium, magnesium, potassium, you don't feel it in your body.
So continuing with that, I've heard some say that when it comes to like fruits and vegetables, to eat them while they're in season, because there you could be. I'm from the south, so the best way I could equate this is crawfish season, where technically you can get them out of season,
Yes.
but if you get them out of season, there's enzymes in it that aren't as good for the body. You could even call it poison. They little, they not nutritional, but
Right.
while they're in season, they're bigger, they're better for you, and things like that. So, is that the same when it comes to the fruits and vegetables?
Absolutely. When we get things during their season, it it tastes better, it has more nutrients, and our bodies can receive it better. So, you know, even though watermelons only come in season like June, July, August, um, that's the best time to eat them. If you buy watermelons, you know, out of the summer, you could tell the difference. It doesn't taste the same. So, you know, and that's because it doesn't have that electric quality that it's meant to have, when it's coming from a different country and not in. So yeah, that's very important. Eating fruit by the season, and also I do give um, some quality to eating by your blood type as well. So, you know, sometimes people are not meant to be vegan or vegetarian, and that really is based on your blood type.
Okay, that's a big thing. That you're actually the first person that mentioned that part, because I've heard some say that your genetic background plays into it, as pretty much wherever your ancestors are from is where is the diet you should be eating.
Yes, yes, yes. But that's a part of it because it does, I mean, it's some validity to that. But also your blood type, you know, when people do have trouble, diseases and such, I definitely encourage them to go into that aspect to see if that will help. Because again, the quality of the food now is not that good. There are so many GMO foods out there. You know, the corn, soy, wheat GMO thing has given people a lot of allergies. So, and the allergies can lead to disease. You know, if you're eating something that your body really does not want, you will get sick. Okay. Even young people. So, definitely understanding your body and what it needs, it has a lot of importance to us staying healthy overall.
This has been great having you on. We're getting ready to wrap up. Do you have any closing thoughts that you'd like to share with the audience?
Um, I would just say, you know, the times that we're in are changing. They have changed a lot. So we're now in this age of Aquarius. People, we've been talking about the age of Aquarius now since about 2012. And it's, excuse me, it's because we don't just enter into a whole new age like in a year. it's a process that happens over time. But this age that we're in is the time that was prophesized for the whole world to change. And so, even though there's a lot of war going on now, prophesies that there will be a time of peace. And so, for us, we have to make sure that we are changing as well to keep up with the changes in the universe and do what we can to bring more peace to our lives. You know, it can be stressful, especially living in America. Um, but we don't have to allow the stress to rule us. You know, we can definitely choose peace. And so I would just say, you know, for everyone listening, to do that for yourself. Like, avoid the things that are stressing you, avoid the people that are stressing you. Be your authentic self, live according to your purpose, and choose love and choose peace every time. And that will help you to have a better quality of life and to live longer as well.
All right. So, where can people connect with you? Where can people support you? Where can people find your books?
So for classes and retreats, you go to RaSekhiHealing.com, which is RaSekhiHealing, Raseki Healing. For the books and other products, we have the Raseki store. And also, we are all over the social media. So Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. Just go look for RaSekhi Arts Temple. You definitely have to be careful of the fake pages because we have many, especially on TikTok. They don't take the fake pages down. So just look for the page that has a high number of followers, because the original pages always have the highest number of followers because they've been around the longest. So the fake pages will have, like, you know, a different name. They will change, they'll add a number or change a letter or add a letter, stuff like that. You just want to be careful because I've heard that they will try to scam people out of money and all that kind of thing. But Raseki Arts Temple is there. You should find me there. We have videos, books, and other products. We do classes and retreats all over the country and even outside the country as well. And we definitely would love to assist you on your healing journey. So thank you so much for this time.
Thank you.
Yes,
As we close out, would you be comfortable with like saying a prayer, releasing a blessing over the audience?
absolutely. Absolutely. So let's just take a moment and we're going to breathe first and just breathe out. Any stress of the day. Breathe in and hold your breath and breathe out. Again, breathe in and hold it and breathe out. One more time. Breathe in, hold your breath, and breathe out. We give praises and gratitude to the Great Spirit, known by many names: Dua, Ra, Dua, and Ter. Dua to all the great Netru who walk with us. Dua to our great and righteous ancestors and spirit guides who walk with us and guide us. We thank you for your presence. We thank you for your love. We thank you for assisting us as we move through our days. We are so thankful to the spirit of air, fire, water, and earth. We are thankful to the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, the mineral kingdom, and all of nature that we work with in this time. We are thankful for the healing that's happening all over the world right now, for the positive changes that are happening, for the end of racism, the end of oppression, the end of male domination, and for Ma'at being restored to the planet once again. We are so thankful, and we are praying for our energy to continue to move with love. We pray for love and peace for our families, for our communities, and for our people all over the world. We give thanks for this and for all things great and small. Dua Natur, Dua Ashe.
Dua. Again, thank you. It's been great having you on. Until next time.
Good job, Neb. Thank you so much, my brother. Peace and
Ankun
blessings.
Job Seneb Neb.